Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Steve Ramona. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. Steve Ramona. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Every episode is an invitation, a reminder that business and life isn't just about profit, it's about purpose. It's about showing up with a servant's heart in every deal and every decision, every day to make a powerful impact on others. Today's guest is going to light you up. You'll be motivated, you'll be challenged, and most importantly, you're going to walk away with tools that inspire action both in your life and the lives of others. Audience, here's your homework. How will you serve yourself and others today? Doesn't have to be a big impact. Even a small act of kindness or courage can change the game. So lean in, take notes. Shout out to my two sponsors, A Mind for All Seasons. Your brain is your greatest competitive edge, and it deserves to perform like one. Want to think faster, remember more, and stay focused longer? Just text the word optimize to 72000. Optimize to 72000 and get instant access to 6 short, powerful videos, each just 3 to 5 minutes, that reveals simple strategies to unlock peak mental performance. Because when your brain is clear, your business grows. And the Epic Impact, the storytelling system that helps your message connect and convert, it's just 4 steps. Engage, persuade, inspire, close with clarity. I use it every day for all my messages. Try it free at epicimpact.ai with code STEVE. Change your messages, change your results. Excited to announce Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast was named top 6 in small business marketing. Thank you all of you, my guest and my audience. You've impacted so many people. Let's continue doing that. Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Anxiety. Do you have it? We all do. Slower levels, bigger levels, a lot more, very little. I had anxiety this morning when I woke up. Something wasn't there, but it was a brief 30-second anxiety. But my guest today is, we're going to talk about that and how to, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, overcome or handling your anxiety better. So let's bring him on. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
You're so welcome, because when we first talked, when we met, it was just amazing how you were talking to me about anxiety and how you simplified it. Talk about that. How we overthink anxiety, I guess is the word.
Sure. Well, you started off with this word kind of overcome. And I like to think about the language we use to think and talk about anxiety is actually really important, because one of the things I work with a lot of people on is if you have chronic anxiety, like you said, we all get little bursts of anxiety from here and there, and that's totally normal. But if your anxiety kind of sticks around for it's kind of sticky, it doesn't go back to baseline, back to zero. Often that's because we have a problematic relationship with our anxiety. Specifically, if you tend to think of your anxiety as a threat or a danger or something bad, and you're always trying to get rid of it, your brain learns to think of anxiety as a threat, which just gives you more anxiety. So one of the big things that I like to try and communicate to people is that ideally, you don't want to have a combative relationship with your own anxiety, because it's just going to make things worse. And we can get into the details of this, but ideally, you want to treat your anxiety like a friend, someone who's maybe delivering some tough news, some words or ideas that are hard to hear but are important. Anxiety is a little like that. It can be uncomfortable, but it's not bad. And so I think we actually want to be careful about the language we use. Am I overcoming my anxiety? Am I handling it? I certainly don't want to give my brain the impression I'm trying to conquer my anxiety or eliminate it or something like that. So I think that's the first thing I would say to kind of set the stage, is that your relationship with anxiety might be the most important thing when it comes to overall experiencing less anxiety through your days.
Words is the key word. That's why I remember our conversation. You had mentioned that we had a long conversation about words, how they can be, and that's anything on the podcast. The
Sure.
words are important. So let's dive into a little bit how we can have a relationship with our anxiety. It sounds kind of weird, but it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the big thing to keep in mind is that your brain, there's a part of your brain, it's called the amygdala, and the amygdala's job is to keep you safe. So it's active all the time. It's sort of scanning your environment, like watching out for bears, walking across the street, or all sorts of things, right? But the fascinating thing about this part of your brain, the amygdala, is that it can learn that new things are dangerous, which is important. If you've never lived in the city and then all of a sudden you move to a big urban city, like you got to be careful for big buses going down the street and all sorts of new things you didn't have to deal with when you lived out in the serene countryside, right? So it's a good thing that our brains can learn that new things are dangerous. But what can happen unintentionally is if we start to teach our own brain that anxiety itself is dangerous, we start getting what's called compound anxiety, which is anxiety about anxiety. So if you get anxious and then you think, "Oh my God, why am I anxious? I got to feel better. I got to do, pull up my coping skills and do my deep breathing and get rid of this anxiety." You might feel a little bit better in the moment, but the problem is long term, what you're teaching your brain is anxiety is bad. So your brain's going to be even more on the lookout for anxiety. So little things that would have just rolled off your back, now they're going to become bigger things because your brain is specifically like hyper vigilant to anxiety. And then when you experience it, it's going to shoot you up with a little adrenaline and cortisol and kind of a typical fight or flight response in response to your anxiety. So now you're stacking anxiety. You're getting anxious about being anxious. And almost always when people, again, struggle with long-term anxiety, it's because they've got anxiety about anxiety, which is driven kind of counterintuitively by this very natural but unhelpful instinct to run away from or get rid of our anxiety. The alternative,
That's interesting.
go ahead.
No, I just say that's interesting. You're just blowing me away again, like you did last time I met you. Keep going.
So ideally, what we want to do instead is be willing to have our anxiety, but not get lost in it. So one of the things I recommend is when you start feeling anxious, it's important to acknowledge and validate the anxiety. And that just it's really simple, actually. It just means telling yourself, okay, I'm feeling anxious right now. Instead of, oh no, what do I have to do? I got to do this. I got to do that. I can't feel anxious anymore. I got to people are going to, you start worrying and scheming about what you need to do. Instead, just very plainly, okay, I am anxious. That's acknowledging your anxiety, or I'm feeling panicky, or I'm nervous, whatever word kind of captures anxiety for you. And then validate it. And validating, it really just means reminding yourself that even though anxiety is uncomfortable, it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean something's wrong. Your brain is supposed to get anxious. It's just a little bit confused. It's getting anxious about something that's not actually dangerous. So validating the anxiety means reminding yourself, hey, okay, I'm a little bit anxious, but I don't like it. I don't like feeling this way, but it's okay. It's not surprising that I'm feeling anxious right now. And what that does, if you think about it, this is exactly what you would do if another person came to you and said they were anxious. Steve, if we got on a call and said, oh, I've just been having a really hard time. My business isn't going so well. I'm getting really worried about, Steve, the first words out of your mouth wouldn't be, well, what's wrong with you? You shouldn't be anxious. You wouldn't say that. Nobody would say that. You'd say, oh, I'm sorry you're feeling that way, Nick. I've been there, right? We all have kind of ups and downs. It makes sense that you're feeling kind of anxious right now. That's validating. You already know how to do it because you do it with other people. It's just being supportive with yourself. But notice you're not trying to either get rid of the anxiety or run away from it. It's almost like you're kind of having a little conversation with it. You're saying, okay, I see you, right? I get that you're trying to help, but it's actually not, this isn't a dangerous situation. Okay, so that's kind of the first step towards processing your anxiety in a healthier way.
So let's use a business example.
Let's do it.
I'm walking into a big meeting. Of course, I've got anxiety. It's $1 million contract, my biggest contract ever. And I want to nail this thing. You hear that all the time. I want to win this thing, nail whatever word they use. How do we handle that?
Yeah. So one of the things, especially in high stakes situations like you're describing, a reframe means the same thing happens, but you're thinking about it from a slightly different perspective. A lot of people feel anxious and pardon my French, their first thought is, oh shit, something's wrong, right? Or someone's going to notice something's wrong with me. And again, that just tells your brain that something's wrong, which makes you even more anxious. And so it's just really not helpful. An alternative, especially in these kind of like high pressure situations, is to remind yourself that, well, I like to say, under the hood, anxiety is just adrenaline. So adrenaline is a neurochemical, right? And it's a performance enhancer. When you're in a challenging, difficult situation, adrenaline improves everything from like your hand-eye coordination to your processing speed mentally. Everything gets better. Even your physical strength gets better with a little bit of adrenaline. So what you experience as anxiety, that's really just your brain saying like, all right, we got something big, a challenge coming up. We're going to shoot them up with a little bit of adrenaline to kind of help them perform better. So even though it's a little uncomfortable, you might get like your heart rate might increase a little bit, or you notice you're getting your temperature goes up, right? Again, those are uncomfortable, but they're actually your brain trying to help you perform better. So if you can remind yourself that what I initially feel as anxiety, it's just adrenaline. It's my brain trying to help me. And that adrenaline will actually help me perform better, even though it's a little bit uncomfortable. And this is something professional athletes and performers in general know really well. A lot of athletes know that to compete at the highest level of performance, they just call it getting pumped up, right? But you need adrenaline to perform at your best. They don't get anxious about it because they see it as a good thing. It's a little uncomfortable, but it gives them the edge. So especially in these high performance situations, that's something I always work with my clients on, is to help them get in the habit of reframing anxiety as adrenaline, which does two things. It stops you from doing that thing we were talking about, which is treating anxiety like a threat or an enemy, which only just makes it worse, right? And it makes you more confident going into the thing you're doing, because you're knowing your brain's on your side. It's actually helping you out. So this is really powerful if you can get in the habit of reframing your anxiety as adrenaline, as something helpful.
That's powerful because self-awareness. And it's funny, you're talking about sports. When I played sports, I'm 64. So back, 30, 40 years ago, our coaches would say, if you don't have that knot in your pit of your stomach, you're not, is that the same thing? It's just another way the body telling you, wow, okay, interesting.
Yes. So let's nerd out for a second here. To perform at your best, right? What your body is trying to do is, the reason when you feel anxious, think about what happens. Your heart rate goes up a little bit, your breathing rate increases, you get knots in your stomach, you feel a little lightheaded, you might even feel a little tingly, like your toes and fingers might feel a little tingly. All of that is perfectly explainable by a fight or flight response, which is your body's way of helping you deal with threats or challenges. And what's going on is, for your body to perform well, your muscles, especially in your extremities, need more oxygen, because oxygen is part of the fuel that our muscles use. It's a little like turbo mode in a car. Like turbo shoots oxygen in and like helps your car perform better. Yeah. So when you start breathing more quickly, you're bringing in more oxygen, your heart rate increases so that you can distribute that oxygen in your bloodstream. And specifically, your body says, right now, we need to change the ratios. We don't need as much in the head and the gut. We need more in the extremities. So it tells your body to reprioritize blood flow to your extremities. So when blood flow is shifting out of your gut and out of your head, it's not all leaving, just a little bit, and going into your extremities, that accounts for why we get those like knots in our stomach, or like feel slightly lightheaded, or get little tingling sensations in our extremities, because more blood is like rushing into it. So I say all this because, yes, it's uncomfortable, it's a little weird, but it's not a sign that anything's wrong. It's actually a sign that something is right. Your body's doing what it's supposed to be doing in the face of a danger or a challenge. And it's actually a good thing. So your old, high school football coach or whatever was right. Like, it's actually a good thing when you're getting a little bit of knots in your stomach, or you're feeling a little lightheaded or something. It's good. It's not actually bad.
And that's huge, because it's a positive way of looking at it instead of negatively, like the anxiety, the stacking the anxiety.
Yes.
And Aaron Rodgers, when he played for the Packers, he's a football coach, a football quarterback, if people don't know, he would reach down and grab a piece of grass before the first play to feel the field. Are those some of the, I don't know if it's the right word, is triggers or things you can do to calm anxiety a little bit?
Yeah. So I haven't heard what Aaron Rodgers, like, explain why he does something like this, but what you'll see with athletes and a lot of performers is they have these rituals that they engage in. And what's going on with the rituals is, I think I'm glad you brought this up, because a lot of people think, oh, I need a ritual like a coping skill to make my anxiety go away. And if you look at what these guys do and gals, that's not what they're doing. They're not using them to get rid of anxiety, right? They're using them like grounding skills to be more present in the moment, right? And it's a ritual. It's a thing they do all the time, regardless of how they feel. So whether he's feeling anxious or calm or whatever, he does the same ritual over and over and over again, because it helps him get in the zone, in that flow state, right? So I think that's really important, that rituals like that can be helpful, but you don't want to use them with the intent specifically to make yourself less anxious. Because remember, if you do that, your brain's watching and it's going to freak your brain out because it's going to think you're getting in a fight with your anxiety if you're trying to make it go away, which is just going to lead to more anxiety, and it's going to be counterproductive. So these like grounding rituals can be helpful, but they shouldn't be used as a way to lower your anxiety directly. They will have the effect of preventing you from getting super anxious or contributing to that, but you don't want to do it with that intent. It's a little tricky here, because that's just going to lead to that stacked or compound anxiety.
I'm a big sports guy, because it's interesting, because and you're a smart guy, because that's exactly what he said. Now I realize he was telling the guy in the interview, because it makes me present, that I'm on a football field, that this is, he knew his anxiety. That's why he was doing it. He wasn't pushing it away. It was just making him more focused, which the anxiety tied together with okay, this is really good. Because Joe Montana, the story with Joe Montana real quick, in the Super Bowl, I'm a 49er fan, that he looked over at, they walked into the huddle. Oh, okay. So remember the story? We walked in the huddle and told the guys, hey, there's John Candy. They're like, we're on the biggest drive of the biggest game of our life. Is that something else that's helping his anxiety when he brings up something like that? Or is it a different mechanism?
That's really interesting. I'd be curious to hear him like break down why he was doing that, or what his motivation for doing that was. But what I would say is both of those things, the Aaron Rodgers story and the Montana story, what they're achieving from a psychological point of view is they're keeping people focused in the present without trying to like overtly get rid of the anxiety. That's what I think even a lot of like athletes, even if they don't know explicitly why they're doing something, they've learned that the most optimal response to anxiety is neither avoidance or elimination. Trying to escape or get rid of anxiety will not work for you in the long run. It'll make you more anxious and your performance will go down. The best approach is to kind of let it be there, but not focus on it. So by kind of these grounding exercises, or like the joke about John Candy, I think they help people just be present and be with their anxiety and then get on with business. That's what leads to the best results, the best performance, and ultimately feeling the best. Because when you do that, when you don't either run away from or obsess over your anxiety, the lesson your brain learns is that anxiety is just a thing. Like, it's fine. It's not dangerous, right? It's just a thing. And so the more you can teach your brain that by acknowledging it, but then just sort of let it be there. It's like, let it sit in the back seat. You don't want to let your anxiety drive. You also don't want to try and throw it out the window. Both of those are not going to lead to good things. Just let it be there and then get back to business. That's the optimal strategy. And I bet that's what both Montana and Rodgers' strategies are kind of helping them achieve psychologically, whether or not they knew that.
No, and they know it's the last biggest drive of their year, which brings anxiety. Oh man, this is brilliant.
And both those guys, interestingly, were known for like game-winning drives, right? Being exceptionally high performers under the biggest pressure possible, which can't be a coincidence, right?
Yeah, no, it's not. How long have you been a psychologist?
Oh gosh, I got my PhD in 2015. So 10 years?
10 years. You could tell, because I'm going to watch how I say this. Most people can do this, and it's not it's a simple task. And I use the word simple, I got to be careful with that. But anybody could do this, right?
Yeah, simple but not easy, right? Like a lot of things in life, in sports, business, whatever, music, like simple but not easy.
Yeah. Can you tell us a story of a client you work with? 10 years, I'm sure you have a ton of them, but you work with, and some of this you really were able to help them and benefit them.
Yeah, sure. So I had a guy I worked with about a year ago, we'll call him Dan. It's not his actual name, but just
Yeah,
to maintain kind of privacy, we'll call him Dan. Dan was an executive at a pretty big company, so he was a pretty influential guy. Had to do a lot of public speaking, and he was the interesting thing was he was really good at it, really good at it. People always commented about it, but he got really anxious ahead of time. And he had all of these things. Almost no one who knew Dan would know this about him, but he did things like he would meticulously plan out where are the bathrooms so that if something goes wrong, I can like get to the bathroom and like escape. And, I can like, if I'm getting sweaty, I can like, cool myself off or splash my face with water. The other thing is he always carried Xanax with him. Xanax is it's a fast acting benzo. It's an anxiety medication. The interesting thing was he rarely used it, but it was kind of like his safety blanket. Like he needed to know that it was there in case like the big one came and he had to. But what Dan didn't realize was all these things, we call them safety behaviors, like safety blankets. But by insisting that he always had the Xanax with him or like mapping out where all the restrooms were just in case something bad happened, his brain was interpreting those as he's scared. This guy's scared of speaking in public. And so his confidence was staying low, which led to this confusing thing was he's like, I know I'm good at this. People tell me I'm good at it. I know I'm good, but why do I keep feeling more and more anxious? It's because his confidence was being artificially suppressed by these avoidance mechanisms, always carrying the anxiety med just in case, mapping out the over preparing for things, all these things. They were all trying to get rid of or escape the anxiety, which ironically kept the anxiety up there. So what we designed this like training program basically, because building confidence is like building any other skill. It's really straightforward. You just have to do it in a smart way, which is whether you're learning to play the piano or throw touchdown passes or whatever it is, you start small and you work your way up. This is how you get good at anything in life. As you build up competence, your confidence follows. So what we did is we started very slowly and incrementally. And we said with Dan, and I said, okay, like for this next speech you're going to go to, instead of carrying your Xanax with you, like leave it in your briefcase, like in the room next door. It's still technically there, but it's not right there with you. So you couldn't pop it backstage or something. So he was like, okay, that's a little scary, but it was doable. I wasn't taking away his safety blanket altogether. So we started doing that. Then we added this bit I was telling you about reframing anxiety as adrenaline. And that helped tremendously because instead of getting immediately freaked out anytime he started feeling anxious, he was like, okay, I'm anxious, but at least I'm not anxious about being anxious. And then we started weaning him even further away from the Xanax. Like he'd keep it in his car, but he wouldn't bring it into the building with him. Right? And then once he'd done that a few times, and this always happens, I never have to get them to the last step. They do it on their own spontaneously. He was just like, yeah, I was going to the speech. I was like, what the hell? I'm just going to leave it at home. You're not going to bring it with me. And he went and he crushed it. And he still got a little bit anxious, which is totally normal. Anytime you do anything challenging, you're going to feel a little bit anxious. But he stopped doing those safety behaviors. So his brain stopped thinking that he was afraid. And he got good at this skill of reframing his anxiety as adrenaline, as something that was actually trying to help him. And those two things, after just really it was only 3 or 4 weeks, he was like off to the races. So cool.
It's brilliant because I could see speaking, the PowerPoint doesn't work, the mic doesn't, those people have anxiety. I talk to speaks all the time. Like you get it. And it wasn't a big step for him. But
so that's the thing. I think with a lot of mental health stuff, people, it is challenging. It's hard. Remember we talked about, but it's not complex always. A lot of people assume that if I have some sort of emotional struggle, like I got to spend years in therapy talking about my childhood and all that kind of there's a place for that sometimes. But a lot of the times, especially with anxiety, it's about making a few small but important adjustments in the present to your habits in the present. And doing them in this smart, incremental way, instead of just trying to do the big thing. And it's like trying to play Mozart and when you never practice piano at all. No, you got to practice a little bit and get better. And then you can kind of move up to the next level. So anyway, it's about kind of applying these sort of nuts and bolts framework that any athlete or musician or any person who's trying to learn a skill, that's how they would learn those things. And you can apply the same thing to building your confidence. And that's one of the other like really powerful mindset shifts is if you struggle with anxiety, ironically, the harder you try to get rid of your anxiety, the worse it will get. So I always tell people, don't be anti-anxiety, be pro-confidence. It's not about getting rid of anxiety, it's about building your confidence. So thinking about what are my behaviors teaching my brain? If you're always running away or trying to get rid of anxiety, you're teaching your brain that you don't believe you can do it. So you're going to stay feeling anxious.
You won't do it, yeah.
But if you teach your brain, you know what, I can do this. I don't like it, but I can do it. You're going to feel more and more confident and less anxious going forward.
That's my podcast journey. You are just nailed it, Nick. Because I did my first show, I'm clapping in the middle of it. I was anxious. I was anxious for months. Now I'm 840 shows.
840. Wow.
Yeah,
good
you're 800. I think 40 show. Yeah, but
oh my gosh,
what it's telling me, and it's going to help me when I talk to podcast hosts, the more you do it, my confidence is overtaking. I know my anxiety is there. I'm meeting somebody new. I want to do it right.
Sure.
Like I had a real big guest on a couple of weeks ago. He was an actor in a movie, big movie. I'm like,
yeah.
A year ago, I'd be freaking out. And I think you helped when I talked to you is like, okay, yeah, a little bit of anxiety. He's a big time, but I'm a great podcast host. I know what I'm doing. And it was, and he loved it. He's like, man, you're great. I'm like, so I'm just telling you, audience, this guy is rock star. We're going to get your contact information here in a minute, but let's do a little improv. Let's have some fun. Get away from business.
Great.
So I've got a table in a restaurant reserved for you. Me and you are going to sit at the table. I want to know who you're going to invite that we get to meet, whether dead or alive, that you've always wanted to talk to and converse with. But more importantly, what food would you order for the table as well?
Oh gosh.
No anxiety there.
No anxiety there. No, not at all. So when I was a little kid, I don't know why this is nerdy and weird, but like I had a teacher who introduced me to the philosopher Socrates way back in the day, 2000 BC or whatever, ancient Athens. So I really resonated with those stories because Socrates, you think of a philosopher as this kind of like stoic, curmudgeonly intellectual. Socrates was hilarious. He was like this pain in the ass guy who he never wrote anything down. He always just walked around with people. And he was kind of his nickname was the gadfly. He was always like poking at people, showing people that they're kind of full of it. Like they didn't really know what they were talking about. And so Socrates had this wonderful, I think what I love and would love to kind of experience of him is he had this mixture of, he was a really smart guy, but he was also very down to earth and like warm and funny and kind of playful. And so that, I don't know, I've just always admired that kind of approach to things. And so I think he'd be a ton of fun. But if he was there, I would want to introduce him to something totally foreign to like, I don't know, sushi. I love sushi. And he would have never, had any of that. So throw some really exotic sushi out there for him. How's that for an answer? I don't know.
That's great. And I'm going to add
sushi with Socrates.
I love it because I'm a big Stoic. I read it every day.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we'll invite Seneca and Marcus Aurelius and make it what a table. Oh my God.
Get a few drinks from those guys. It's going to be wild.
Yes. I love it. Nick, God bless you. You are incredible. You're helping so many people with something that's pretty rampant right now. We talked about before the show, mental health tied to anxiety, and you really helped. I know people listening want to reach out. How can they connect with you?
Sure. So the best place is I have a weekly newsletter that I send that's all about kind of anxiety, insomnia, stress, stuff like that, and kind of practical ways to deal with those. It's called The Friendly Mind. The Friendly Mind. You go to thefriendlymind.com. There's a real simple little sign up there so you can grab it. I do all sorts of other stuff. I give talks, I do workshops, I do some coaching on the side. But that's kind of the hub. That's my passion. So I write every week. And so if you're interested and you want to learn a little bit more, you like the way I kind of think about things, that's the place to go.
And audience, I've been getting his newsletter. I told him before the show, I think we met a month ago, 6 weeks, whatever time frames. And audience, it's one of the best newsletters I get because I've learned so much and I'm able to take your wisdom and share it with others that need help, like we do with this podcast today. So audience, I suggest again, it's free. There's no cost to you. It's just 5 minutes out of your day. And I told him, and he understands, like I have a newsletter, you're going to pick and choose what's resonant with you. And that's great. And then move on to your next thing, your next task of the day. Thanks again, Nick. I really appreciate it. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can help others. And here's how. You're listening to Nick and you go, God, my friend is He has anxiety all over the place. Every meeting he goes to, he's struggling, or every person he meets, new person, he has anxiety. Have him listen to this. What a great first step. What a gift. Because it might impact them this podcast, but maybe they reach out and they get the newsletter and you change their life. Some people go, wow, really changed. I said, yes. Can you imagine if you reduced anxiety, which Nick says is still there, but you're able to work with it and know it's there and have confidence and grow? And now you're doing things you never would have done before. Game changer. So go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube, my channel, or any other channel and share those out as gifts. With that being said, me and Nick want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.